Let's now bring our minds to this place. Let us relax and focus, reminding ourselves of why we are here, reminding ourselves of our true nature as immortal spirits that we are. Let us open our hearts and talk to our Creator. Dear God, here we are, gathered in your name. We thank you for this opportunity that you have given us today. We thank you for the Spiritist doctrine in our lives. And we thank you for the presence of the spiritual benefactors who we know were here even before we arrived, preparing this place for the work that will be conducted today. At this moment that we have our hearts open and our minds focused, we say thank you for everything that you have given us so far in this existence. We pray that we may make good use of the time that we have here today. May we be humble enough to take the teachings that will be presented to us so that we can improve our lives. Enable us to receive all the enlightenment that comes from the spirits from above, so that we can become true Christians in our daily lives. We pray that we may be able to assimilate the ideas that will be presented, and that we can walk out of this room today feeling stronger, being able to say why we believe in life after death, saying why we want to follow the teachings of Jesus. We pray that you may stay with us at all times, but also that especially we may be able to be with you in every moment of our existences. And so we ask permission to start this meeting today, that your inspiration may be with our speaker, and that we may be focusing at all times at the teachings that we presented. So be it. Hello and welcome everyone. It's a great joy to be here today, celebrating our second anniversary. Today we have our speaker coming from London, Evanise Zwirtes. She is the president of the Zwirtes Psychological Society in London. She conducts seminars, talks, lectures in various places, nationally and internationally. And professionally she is a psychotherapist. So I'm going to pass over to Evanise.
Good afternoon to everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here amongst all of you in such an important occasion as the second anniversary of the Oxford Spiritist Study Group. So hopefully by the end of our talk we will learn a bit more about Spiritism, understanding that the topic that has been chosen for us to present today, self-love, pathway to evolution, is based on the Spiritist doctrine. Understanding that Spiritism is one of the ways for us to reach perfection, and also understanding that Spiritism is one of the ways that helps us to understand ourselves more, and also helps us to develop self-love, being in essence Spiritism a way that helps us to develop our intelligence or emotional intelligence. Therefore, we are starting to reflect a bit about some aspects about Spiritism that helps us or invites us to go for more search, for more studies, so that we can go deeper in our understanding about ourselves, starting that we are all eternal beings. That means that we are created by God with love and in order to love. Let's start with the following. The subject of the Spiritist doctrine is immense. It involves all other fields, physical, metaphysical, and social. We know that all what we learn, it's helping us to improve ourselves and also therefore being a better human being, a better cell in the society where we are placed. The Spiritist doctrine has three essential dimensions: communication between the physical and spiritual realms, the philosophy deduced from them, and the application of that philosophy to daily living. The communication between the physical and spiritual realm, that helps us to understand that we are not the physical body, but constantly through our way of thinking, through our way of feeling, we are interacting with all the beings, with all the spirits, either in the spiritual world and in the physical. The philosophy deducted by those kind of communications and those kind of interrelationship is helping us constantly to be more conscious, to be more aware on what we are thinking, what we are feeling, and what we are doing in our innermost self, understanding that will affect in a social way where we are placed, either in our homes, with our families, or workplace, or in the society where we are. And how can we apply that on daily living, considering how can we apply the teachings of Spiritism to self-improve ourselves and therefore advance in our pathway of evolution. Spiritism, having taught us of the invisible world which surrounds us and in the midst of which we live, without doubt, the laws which govern it is its connection with the visible world, the nature and state of the beings who inhabit it, and tracing the destiny of man after death is a veritable revelation in the scientific acceptance of the world. As more as we carry on studying, especially the main books which are in the heart of the Spiritism, that is the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, Genesis, which is one of them, we are understanding more and more that actually what the Spiritism is presented to us refers to the understanding of the natural and universal laws of life, which embrace all humanity, either incarnate or disincarnate. Spiritism and science complement each other. Science without Spiritism will find it impossible to explain certain phenomena through the laws that govern only matter. And Spiritism without science will lack support and corroboration. Is that only what the Spiritism teaches us? It's interesting to notice the date when it has been given to humanity by Allan Kardec, the instructions and information from the superior spirits. But let's see what Albert Einstein has to say. In 1941, he wrote an essay in relation to contribution to a symposium held in New York, which was entitled Science and Religion, on what role science, philosophy, and religion played in the course of American democracy. Let's see what he stated there and then. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. Is that not what Allan Kardec presents to us in Spiritism? So we understand that actually what the superior spirits constantly tell us, when the information comes to earth, to humanity, it does come not through one way only, but in different ways. And as we carry on, understanding that in essence we are religious people, that means that we are essentially emotional beings, so much so that the essence of Spiritism always helps us to guide us towards the emotional development. Let's see what Albert Einstein again has to say and how we compare that with Spiritism. My religion consists of a humble admiration of the illimitable superior spirit who reveals himself in the slight details we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble minds. That is humbleness, isn't it? That deeply emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe forms my idea of God. Do we know through our studies what Allan Kardec brought to us in relation to what religion is about God? God is a supreme and sovereign intelligence. He is unique, eternal, immutable. immaterial, all-powerful, sovereignly just and good, infinite in all its perfections, like no other. Do we perceive ourselves as creatures created by God? And what is our understanding about God? Do we perceive Him as all-powerful, eternal, immutable, immaterial, loving towards all of us who are His creatures? When someone realizes that for the achievement of an end certain means will be useful, the means itself becomes thereby an end. Intelligence makes clear to us the interrelation of means and ends. Our title about our topic is Self-Love, a Pathway to Evolution. Is self-love, or could be self-love, a means to reach our perfection? Could self-love be a means, a pathway that helps us to evolve? Let's go ahead. Since the last century, this is what the Spirit Emmanuel tells us, the earth has converted itself in the kingdom of rays and beams, currents and vibrations. Electricity and magnetism are the pulsing attraction in everything. Bones, Planck, Einstein, built on new and grandiose concepts. The further the spiritual evolution of mankind advances, the more certain it seems to me that the path to genuine religiosity does not lie through the fear of life and the fear of death and blind faith, but through striving after rational knowledge. We are not here in terms of feeding blind faith or human faith. Rational knowledge, when Albert Einstein said, do we understand or do we remember what Allan Kardec said about rational faith? Let's see what he presented to us. Unshakable faith is only that which can meet reason face to face in every human epoch. Where are we in terms of our faith? Always when we talk about self-love, whatever we read, we bring it back to us and try to expand our consciousness to where we are. Can we really face on what we trust, in what we believe, despite of the different phases, different epochs where we find ourselves, or where are we? If we carry on, still Allan Kardec teaches us in the Zwirtes magazine, is stating our framework comprises all the ties to the knowledge of the metaphysical part of man. Do we perceive ourselves as metaphysical beings on our daily living? We will study it in its present and future state, as we are, and we know that whatever has been presented to us so far is only the beginning of what is still will be developed further on. For to study the nature of the spirit is to study the man. So when we refer about being eternal beings, the spirits, we are referring the study of ourselves not from a biological level, but yet from a psychological level, understanding that the psychology as we are is transferred from one lifetime to another. Wisely, Albert Einstein defined humans as being an electronic assembly governed by the conscience. This conductor, the conscious, certainly pre-existed and survives the body as an eternal self. The immortal spirit experiencing countless lifetimes of varying degrees of evolution, working in each to discover and embrace the values that lie in the inner self. Do we notice in our daily lives that we are immortal spirits? And if so, what difference does that make in our lives? In our normal daily lives? Do we understand that in every time, in every moment, we can give a step further towards our evolution? A step further towards developing self-love? I tell you in truth that the time is arriving in which all things will be reestablished into its true meaning. We know when we are talking about evolution, any theory, any concept is always temporary, because new ideas will come up, new studies come up, which always are building on and helping us to understand our reality in a deeper level. So, we are in the 21st century already. If you look back through history, a lot of things changed already, such as here, in philosophy, in psychology, in ethics, in religion. There is no through in that which departs one iota from essential qualities of divinity. If we study philosophy these days, if we carry on studying psychology and understanding psychology to the different methods, different schools and different models that are coming up, so much so that the latest one is transpersonal. If we study ethics and religion deep down, do we understand or find the real meaning of the divine aspect that is more and more presented gradually, which is precisely what Spiritism or the superior spirits are presented to us, humanity, already. And we know that whatever is on earth is following the patterns, the studies, and the reality that comes from the spiritual world, always updating as we evolve, as we mature to understand more. All the research on human understanding is nothing more than the human being in search of understanding themselves. Human beings, more and more, we are coming out of a stage that we have the need to feed ourselves from a deeper level, that we may have a lot what is possible on a material level, but yet we are not fulfilled, we are not happy beings. Therefore, there is something else in life that helps us to sustain ourselves on a deeper level, which is really transpersonal, which goes beyond the matter. The psychology presented by Joana de Angelis is based on fundamental principles of the Spiritist doctrine, such as the belief in God, the immortality of the soul. If we understand ourselves that we are immortal, it also helps us to understand more our psychological and emotional aspects, either our conflicts or our achievements already, and also helping us more to self-accept in terms of self-love, that we embrace ourselves and also engage ourselves in carry on developing even further, expanding our self-awareness. The communicability of the spirits, the way that I am, that you are as a spirit, and we think and we feel, we are already communicating with each other. If we are conscious of that or not, if we are aware or not, if we believe in that or not, all of that is secondary because it's part of the natural laws of life. And again, do I know what I think? Do I know what I am communicating into the universe? With which beings will I be connected or choose to be connected? Surely we want to more and more learn to be connected with the superior ones that helps us, to guide us, and also help us to direct towards what is good, what is eternal, and what is helping us to move forward in our pathway of evolution. When we talk about the plurality of existence, which for itself is let's say, an action of goodness coming from our Creator, we are reminded to think about, to reflect about what Allan Kardec said to us. It is need to be born, to die, to be reborn yet again, and constant progress. That is the law. The law of God, which created us all and everything. And it's not possible for us to evolve, to reach our perfection simply in one lifetime. We need different lifetimes to conquer in each one of lifetime more knowledge, more wisdom, more capacities that equip us to become more capable of dealing with the natural laws that all of us are involved. The secure religion's faith, resulting from the personal experience with transcendence, provides a seamless integration of the ego with the self, assisting it with deciphering the many intimate questions. Ego and self, I don't know if you are familiar to that, but it means, as eternal beings as we are let's say, constituted by different aspects within ourselves. The ego is usually our more immature aspect, and the self, which is the deeper level, the deeper, the higher self, is the divine in us. So in order for us to evolve, in order for us to progress, in order for us to develop self-love, there is the need for us to work on the self-discovery first, in order for us to discover who we are, spirits, eternal beings, and then progress on that journey so that we expand on the self-knowledge, to understand how we function within ourselves, and identifying our shadows and transform them. How do we do that? The ego and self being part of our integral being, who we are, is wise that we learn to notice what are our tendencies that go against the natural laws of life, and what do I need to do to connect myself with the deeper self, so that I rescue the ego's tendencies, which are the negative aspects or the limited aspects or all imperfections, and direct them from the self level onwards. In that way, we are rebuilding ourselves and are changing gradually, slowly, but on every day where we find ourselves placed. The self-discovery is intended to educate people about what they need, of how to perform it, and when to begin a new phase. Self-discovery. Let's imagine that we are in a process of self-discovery here tonight. When we say about educate people, we merely refer an education that comes from within, and we being the teachers of ourselves. We being the educators of ourselves. That is quite important for us. And also knowing how to perform in a different way, understanding what our needs of change are, how we do it, and where to begin. I would say every moment in the present is the right moment for us to start a changing process, as long as we are conscious, as long as we are aware of. Not only the identification of their needs, but mainly of their emotional reality, of their legitimate aspirations and reactions in face of events. We go back again stating that in essence we are emotional beings. Therefore, in our daily lives, with our daily events, are we conscious how we react, how we interact? Where are we? What can I change? What can we do differently? I am reacting in a negative way. Why is that? What is that telling about me? Surely, if it's in a negative way, it's showing, it's proving, it's demonstrating that we are lacking self-love. Because more and more, as we learn to accept ourselves as imperfect beings as we are, but trying to perfect us gradually, therefore we will learn to have different responses in relation to daily events or people that we are in contact with. And remembering that Jesus, the greatest psychotherapist, invites mankind for a free decision and a personal responsibility. We are free to decide whatever is best for us. But when we hear from Hannah Wolf and a personal responsibility, understanding as we are eternal beings, and our proposal is learning to develop self-love as a pathway to evolution, not everything would be beneficial to us. Then it's wise that we study more in order to know what would be the best choices for us, the best decision, and also understanding responsibility, meaning autonomy, to choose always what is best on an eternal viewpoint, not only from a materialistic viewpoint. He calmly and quietly proposed a moral revolution of the whole world, set before himself a scheme which embraced every nation and every age. So no one is left outside. He is helping us all to move forward, to grow, to expand ourselves. Understanding that whatever Spiritism presents to humanity is not just for the Spiritist community, because the teachings is embraced and addressed to all humankind. The objective of evolution, the reason of being part of life, is not for earthly happiness, but for the perfection of each one of us. when we talk about self-love, pathway to evolution, we are walking towards perfection, understanding that it is a gradual process. And here we are, as we are in our daily experiences. What is priority? Do we reserve some minutes to think about what is the objective of my life as I see and perceive myself as eternal spirit? Do I understand or do I reflect about that I'm not here just to work, to earn money, which is part of, but there is much more to do, there's much more to learn. In this big school that is earth, what I am giving to the life in terms of collaborating to help to progress myself and others and the society where I am in. Nobody evolves for the other, being an individual process and exclusively personal. We can help in terms of reflecting, facilitating the understanding, yet when it comes to the inner self, no one can do, but only each one needs to be attentive, conscious, and be willing to change for better. And when he says a process exclusively personal, that is quite stimulating, isn't it? Because our evolution, our learning about self-love does not depend on others. It depends only on us, of what we choose in every moment. And that is powerful. The classic method of teaching cultivates intelligence, but it does not teach how to act, to love, and to be dedicated in reaching the perfection from within. Do we learn that in normal education system? No, we don't. So far we don't. We know that from where we are coming from, how our schools were, what was happening, and then a destiny that returns the profound energies of the self which direct our impulses or efforts to a higher objective. So because the level of education on earth, as we learn within the superior spirits, is unfolding and improving, but we as adults now can help to form our own methodology, how we educate ourselves from now onwards. So whatever happened prior to this point, and especially when we have been studying, we were trained to focus, to look outside us. And Spiritism, through a new methodology of education, is helping us to guide us within ourselves. Again, how do we act? I need to follow the journey within to understand how to love. How do we learn to love in our daily lives? What is love? We can start to think about. I guess this is different for everyone, but in essence, from where we are at the moment, it means everything, every action, every thought, every feeling that corresponds to the natural laws of life, which are the laws of God. And to be dedicated in enriching the perception from within. How much time do we invest in reserving some moments on a daily basis to be with ourselves, to live with our own company, to listen to ourselves, to dialogue with ourselves? Do we do that? If not, can we start? Because it's fundamental understanding as eternal beings, we are just temporarily in the company with each other. But sooner or later, we are moving forward and we need to learn to walk our own pathway. In order to apply new methods, new people are needed. For the science of tomorrow, which liberates, it is necessary to have liberated spirits. Where are we? Do we feel ourselves liberated, free, or do we feel ourselves with prejudice or with fixed ideas, concepts? Where are we? We are invited to be the people who are collaborating for the changing of paradigms now and later on. Where are we? And then, for the new science, it is necessary to have humans that are knowledgeable about the superior laws of the universe. Where are we in terms of understanding the superior laws of the universe? That is a journey that each one of us can embrace and carry on as we embrace our self-studies and study Spiritism on a constant basis. The principle of the immortal life and the grand law of evolution, which is the law of love. Therefore, this is why we mentioned when we started our talk, self-love, a path of evolution. Can self-love be a means to achieve our ends towards our perfection? Let's think about it. Education, psychotherapy, mythology of the human living should extract itself in the consciousness of being before having, of being instead of power, of being without the worry of pretension. Where I am, if I ask myself honestly today, where I am in terms of being before having, what is more important in this stage in my life? Do I feel happy? Do I have pleasure in focusing, in developing, in acquiring what is eternal? When we talk about self-love, we are reminded that self-love is an option, a choice that each spirit, each being does in choosing what is best, and not best only in the here and now, but what is best on a long term for us. And also of being without power, learning to develop humility, learning to develop humbleness, so that instead of being in control and trying to dominate situations or people, we are trying to dominate our thoughts or emotions, and therefore reaching a more balanced structure from within. Spiritists are created simple and ignorant, but with the aptitude for acquiring all knowledge. We are talking about ourselves. And for progressing in every direction through the exercise of our free will, they acquire new knowledge, new faculties, new perceptions. Where are we in terms of our free will? Do we feel strong about? Do we feel motivating in terms of getting more new knowledge constantly? Can we inspire ourselves to constantly be changing and adding new ideas so that we are open to receive what is new, what is coming to help us to progress and to evolve? Are we developing new faculties in our daily lives? Are we open, are we driven to get new aspects in our learnings, new perceptions about ourselves, about life, about the universe, about the laws that govern us? Where are we? Individuals can take on the responsibility of their evolution and conquer themselves for ridding themselves of erroneous concepts of life. Thus they overcome their perturbing and destructive tendencies and liberate themselves from their misguided perceptions of life. Do we feel that we suffer a lot? Do we feel that things go wrong in our lives? Then probably we are invited to check our belief systems and also to observe which are our perturbing and destructive tendencies. I guess we all have them still. What varies is the degrees that we have them. But are we aware? What are, if we now ask ourselves, what are my perturbing or destructive tendencies? Would I know them? How do I change my perceptions about life? Joanna de Angelis teaches us that it's wise that from time to time we change our lenses. That means change the way that we see, that we perceive events and people. In that way, we are changing ourselves, becoming more flexible, and understanding that unhappiness comes from trying to dominate events and people which originate from our fears and resentments. But it is important for us to realize that no one makes us happy or unhappy. We choose our feelings and emotions. Do we know when we are really hot, let's say like that, in our daily lives, do we understand that actually we are choosing those kinds of feelings, those kinds of behaviors? Where I am, do I blame others in relation to what I feel? Or am I already in a state of understanding that what I'm feeling, that belongs to my individuality? Which I may not have learned to cope and to deal in a different way. But it's time to change the perception and look in a different way, how we can cope in different ways. The false self remains operative when individuals are emotionally dominated by external events or unconscious defenses instead of acting with freedom. The false self is the self we think we are. It seeks fame, power, prestige, and wealth. So, again, if we look how our life is unfolding, if it's flowing with more naturality, or if it's flowing with certain difficulties, let's watch what's going on within. Understanding that we have been created by God with love and in order to love. So whatever aches, whatever is pain, that is a signal, or in a let's say feedback that our nature is giving, signaling to us that the way that we are conducting our lives, something is outside the natural laws. Each time that we move within the natural laws, we are feeling more centered, more balanced. The flow through the experiences happens with more ease. The spiritual journey involves the dismantling of the false self and the recovering of the true self. Self-love, a pathway to evolution. There is no way for us to expand our ability to self-love if we don't touch on the false self, if we don't identify it, if we don't change that. And this is precisely what the spiritual journey, which we all are on, is inviting us to do. And trying also with a self-love move to embrace ourselves as we are, and not when we identify any shadow or any imperfection to go into blame stages, but yes, self-acceptance, creatures created by God that are capable of changing in any moment. Whatever we didn't do according to natural laws, put ourselves in the position as a learner so that we, the next moment, exercise ourselves in a different way. From the psycho-spiritual crisis of which permits taking its natural course can result in the benefits of such a greater pleasure of living. Each shadow, each imperfection, each difficulty that we identify on our psychological, emotional, or on our attitude level is helping us in terms of transforming that to collaborate in having more pleasure of living. It's vital that we do understand, as eternal beings that we are, in the pathway of evolution, that we steer closer from our departure point and on the arrival point, which is the perfection. We still do mistakes. The mistakes are not the problem. The problem is when we get hooked on our mistakes. Or if we stop to evolve, and then it becomes difficult, when it's no need for that. What we learn is put ourselves in the position as learner, and the mistakes are merely lessons teaching to us how to do, how to cope in a different way next time around. The psycho-spiritual approach integrates both psychological growth and spiritual attunement. We are not body. We are a spirit within the three dimensions as we are. That is, a spirit, perispirit, the physical body. Therefore, whatever we do on our psychological and emotional aspect is affecting our spiritual attunement or not. So therefore, it is quite wise and very motivated for us to constantly imagine that as more as we balance ourselves from, let's say, what actually the official science here on earth tells us on the biological level, which is not from the spiritual level, or psychological and emotional dimension, is helping us to grow. Every thought, negative one, that I can change on daily basis, I'm helping to attune myself spiritually. Every negative emotion that is disturbing, that I'm re-educating myself, I am helping myself to grow psychologically and attuning myself spiritually. One of the main purposes of reincarnation is the acquisition of love for spiritual growth and self-improvement. Is that within our consciousness on daily basis when we are running, crushing, working and doing this and this and that? Do we know what is the main purpose for us incarnates here? Because this is a short time that goes by quite quickly. Acquisition of love. And how is that? Is that not through self-love, where we start to process within ourselves, developing the ability to create a relationship with us with more dignity, with more understanding, with more love? Quite often we are quite self-critic, but is pointless. Which the interpersonal intelligence turns to the outside, teaching us how to deal with the other. The interpersonal will take us within ourselves, educating us on how to live with our inner world. What is more important? I think is starting the relationship within. Because without, which is the interpersonal, will depend where I am in terms of relating with myself. And that is consciously or unconsciously. The proposal that we receive from the Lighting Spirit is that we become more conscious about our process. Because whatever is on a conscious level, we can change for better, and therefore learning to relate with ourselves with a more loving way, caring way, and that will be expressed and extended with the other in the society where we live. Usually when we are relating, work-wise, at home, socially, there are 3 different ways that we can choose to relate with others, and we all do. We may not be conscious. But the proposal of studying more and helping us to self-study is to understand us. That can be lovelessness. If that is present within, what would be here the tendencies? The indifference and cruelty, with time generating guilt and anxiety of the conscious. Or we also have the pseudo-love. We still are training ourselves to reach the middle, the balance level. So usually we are on the extremes. Now another way that we can relate with others is through pseudo-love. If that is present within us, which is not balanced, then will predominate in all way of being, sentimentalism that generates pseudo-well-being, which means false. It's therefore an attempt to mask the anxiety of the conscious. Everything what is not connected with our essence from the deeper self creates consequences which are disturbing within. Or, as we are learning self-love, which we are progressing more and more, we learn to relate with ourselves through self-love. Therefore, we will be capable of relating with others with more love, which will then be a conscious duty generated by effort and development of the unconditional love. It generates compassion and solidarity. Those are different responses that come from within, merely being an extension of how we are relating with us. The individual's awareness leads them to a profound knowledge of the fulfilling and productive possibilities that work for them and for the well-being of the society where we find themselves. As more we evolve, more need we find to bring a positive collaboration within the environment, within the society where we are. Because evolving means becoming more honest with ourselves, developing more the positive aspects, those aspects that correspond with the natural laws being the laws of God. And in that way, we are His agent in collaborating with us, in collaborating with the society where we are in, to change patterns for better. The love therapy has its focus firmly on the learning of the gospel, where it is established. Love God above all things and the other as you love yourself. Self-love, a pathway to evolution. Where are we in terms of loving God? How do we do that? Where are we in terms of loving others? Let's see. The love that should be offered to the other is a consequence of natural love that is reserved for you. How much love do we reserve for us on a daily basis? Which kind of attitudes help us to embrace us in a more gentle, loving way? What do I choose on a daily basis to really, fully, truly expand self-love? And then we carry on. The mentor, Joanna de Angelis, says that loving the other without loving ourselves is transference of shadows, of which we lunge to run from ourselves. And that will result in deception, frustration, bitterness, because we pretend to give, but we don't have. And surely that will bring negative consequences, because it is based on false expectations. Being a voluntary represents having a treasure of love to share and not to become needy, awaiting to receive protection and help. If we learn to love ourselves, we learn to love the other and also God. God is our Father, our loving Father, who always loves us, who always protects us, who always inspires us to move forward. Therefore, we are working towards our independence, spiritually speaking. We become more needy in ourselves in terms of realizing, perceiving that we deep within, being divine beings as we are, we carry all the divine resources, all the divine capacities. It's a merely need that we have to connect with those healthy resources. And therefore, we will be offering ourselves more to the world, to the universe, in serving, in doing good. There are people who affirm to have problems. That has nothing to do with us, I guess. Thus is so because they increasingly cultivate them. It is important to understand what we do with ourselves. Self-love means self-acceptance, but not validating or in a destructive behaviors. We cultivate, and that can be happening unconsciously. So the reason that we are studying and reflecting on it is helping us to become more conscious in case we are with those aspects. Joanna de Angelis still goes on. There are others who live with problems, helping them by means of continuous psychological transference. We are in the victim position. Then we are always complaining, so we are transferring and not taking responsibility to change whatever we are not happy with. Remember, we are gods. It's good for us to remind ourselves. Hence, these individuals postpone the solution in time and in place, ignoring them and ignoring themselves. We are ignoring that the solutions of any problem, of any difficulty, lies within us. Vital to focus within. Reflection and dialogue, uprightness to ourselves and to one's neighbor, and constant effort to identify one's limits and to broaden them constitute therapies and methods to transform problems into solutions, difficulties into learnings. Any time, any moment that we find ourselves within a difficult situation, knowing already, as we know that we are eternal beings, that we are guided by God, when we find ourselves in difficult situations, merely create a habit asking, what is life inviting me to learn? What do I need to learn through this situation? Once we learn, we take the lessons and the difficulty will change, surely, because we are finding the solutions for that. Each successive existence affords the soul an opportunity of advancing a step on the road of progress. The length of the step thus accomplished depends on its own will. Do we know that each step, each movement on a daily basis, we are already working towards our evolution? Are we conscious of that? And what is the difference if we are conscious or not? If we are conscious, we know that the road, the pathway will take a bit longer. But if we are conscious, we can shorten that because we are taking wiser decisions in any moment. This liberating work begins in the thought, under the action of continual will and vitalized by the certainty of a near success. Quite often we are impatient with ourselves, isn't it? We want to change and then we hear something new idea, we want to apply, and if it doesn't happen in a couple of hours, then we are frustrated and we give up. How can that work? If we are eternal, remembering and understanding that we have centuries and centuries of experiences, that we created and conditioned our habits. How can that change too suddenly? So we need to learn to be patient with ourselves. But the main point is to insist and persist as many times as it needed. Surely the success just depends on the time. It doesn't matter how long it takes. What matters is to establish a goal, to really commit ourselves with that, like self-love, and to carry on exercising ourselves, carry on repeating the lessons up to the point that we will realize that our willpower has become stronger and we are taking more wise and better decisions in our life, which helps us to be more happier and fulfilled here on earth and afterwards. First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. Surely we all do that already, isn't it? Are we conscious? Do we think what we are thinking? And that's not being crazy. Are we aware? That is the inner process. It's almost like learning to be the observer and the object observed in the same time. Do we know what we are thinking? And then, do we understand what we are thinking? I guess that we would be more economic in our words when we start to do that process. Because when we go in this learning, meaning what we say, what the words mean, we will find out quite often that sometimes we say the wrong thing in the wrong time to the wrong person, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That will save us time in life and energy. Love cannot be enforced, but developed, trained. I repeat again, how much time do I reserve to train myself in terms of loving me? How much time on daily basis do I reserve to develop myself as an eternal being? It is vital to think about. We may say, I don't have time. There's so many things that I need to do. I need to work. I have so many things. But then we learn from the superior spirits that we are managing our time, isn't it? This is what they say to us. And that is important, that we have needs, they tell us, that are completely irrelevant to us as eternal beings. When we engage in our pathway of self-love, we find out that we learn to select more. That actually what previously was relevant and important to me, it becomes secondary. But we need to change habits, we need to change behaviors that we carry within, belief systems that need to be addressed, and in that we are constantly updating ourselves. To love rightly is to love what is orderly and beautiful in an educated and disciplined way. Can we really develop self-love without discipline? Can we really develop self-love without educating ourselves? What is my education methodology? Would I be able to answer to that to me? How did I find the best way so far to establish a method on daily living that helps me to discipline myself? Self-love is connected with self-discipline. Without discipline, do we evolve? Do we grow? Very difficult, isn't it? So the discipline is not something rigid. And if we hear it in that way, we need to address our emotions and our belief systems. That is probably coming from previous experiences that needs to be changed, so that we see, that we feel, that we perceive discipline as a way of evolution that helps us to move forward, that helps us to re-educate ourselves. Those are real values in life. And Mother Teresa teaches us, we need to find God, and He cannot be found in noise and restlessness. God is the friend of silence. See how nature, trees, flowers, grass, grows in silence. See the stars, the moon, and the sun, how they move in silence. We need silence to be able to touch souls. Is it easier for us to be in silence with ourselves? Where are we? It is important to learn. Self-love means a journey within, and unless we learn to silence, we will not be able to listen who we really are, and not to listen what comes from what emerges from our deeper self, the divine aspect. Life is simple as long as we simplify ourselves. We need little as we are passing by here on earth. So what I'm demanding, what I'm looking for, we complicate quite often. Self-love means freeing ourselves of what is not real, of what is not important. Then we become lighter, we become free, and therefore we bring that aspect within our homes, with our families, in our workplace. If my boss is bossy, that's okay. I don't need to fight. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel angry. He is who he is. But I choose where I want to be. Self-love is the foundation of our loving practice. Without it, our other efforts to love fail, because they are false, they are not real. Giving ourselves love, we provide our inner being with the opportunity to have the unconditional love we may have always longed to receive from someone else. Are we in a situation that we are expecting or demanding, and that can be conscious or unconscious, that my partner, my husband, my wife, my children, or whoever, my boss loves me? If that is the case, it is a signal that we are not loving ourselves, because we are demanding from the other that they should do what we need to learn to do. And once we learn, then we don't demand. Remembering the way that we relate with ourselves, be in a marriage, be amongst friends, be amongst colleagues, no one can give us what only us can give to us. I tend to say that we are all like a unique form, and nobody else can fuse my form, because we are unique. Neither can I fulfill somebody else. Where are we in terms of welcoming us and really looking within and not expecting from others? If we perceive those aspects, let's go back and let's engage in the proposal of self-educating ourselves in a loving way, addressing it constantly on a daily basis, even if we reserve a couple of minutes, but already is a start point, that we relate with ourselves in a more deeper and profound way, where we will connect the love within. And therefore we become less demanding of others to accept us, to love us, to approve us, because we are approving ourselves. We are perceiving us as eternal beings, created by God with love in order to love. And therefore we feel stronger, more confident, our self-esteem improves. The difficult situations that are so normal for us that we are facing on a daily basis, they become simple experiences for us. We don't get depressed, because we know that we are learning. Each time that we move within and look within our darkness or shadows and turn them into light, we are rescuing ourselves from within. Doesn't matter what we did wrong in this lifetime or in others. The focus is here and now, focusing with a look of love about ourselves, as students as we are about life, about the natural laws of life, and constantly be willing to study more, constantly be willing to understand more and better ourselves, and investing within our self-development process. Bear in mind that when we learn to love ourselves, the difficulties in life become experiences. If we face illnesses, we already understand that that is an extension of how I behaved with myself in the past, either in this lifetime, either in different experiences. But really asking, what is the lesson that I need to learn to heal myself from within? And surely what we learn constantly and always, that love heals everyone, all the time, everywhere. Self-love, a proposal, a pathway to evolution. May we constantly reserve more time to look after ourselves in a loving way, on our daily basis, understanding really from a deeper level that we are not a physical body. We are not part here of earth, we are just temporarily here. Perceive ourselves as spirits. Perceive ourselves as, in essence, divine beings, full of love, and expand that in every moment, wherever we are and with who we are, exercising ourselves constantly within that approach that invites us to evolve on a constant basis. May Jesus, the greatest Master, involve us all with His love and always help us. But above all, may we choose constantly to be with Him, that guide us towards the right direction and enlighten us towards our approach of development, towards self-love. Much peace.